Now coming to the concept of wall stress. Okay, preload is nothing but the wall stress at the end of diastole. Afterload is wall stress which is present during ejection. So you have two stress. One is at the end of diastole and another at the start of the ejection. Wall stress is a useful concept because it includes a preload, afterload, and more importantly, the energy which is required to generate the contraction. That is wall stress. The wall stress and heart rate are probably the two most relevant indices that accounts for changes in myocardial oxygen demand. Wall stress is minimal in ellipsoid LV when compared to spherical LV. That is the reason initially I was explaining why LV ellipsoid is very important. Wall stress is less with ellipsoid when compared to spherical. When you use the ratio of long axis to short axis as a measure of ellipsoid shape, a decrease in this ratio signifies that the ventricle is moving from ellipsoid to spherical, that is from physiological to pathological. It should maintain the ellipsoid shape to have a decreased stress. The thickness of the left ventricle muscle is an important modifier for wall stress. What happens with aortic stenosis? There is a resistance for the blood from the left ventricle to go to aorta. So there is a concentric hypertrophy and your wall thickness is increased. When you talk about wall stress, an ellipsoid shaped ventricle will have less stress on the wall. But when you have a spherical shaped ventricle, due to some pathology, the wall stress will be more than ellipsoid. So that is very important to understand. Now in a normal ventricle, blood from the LA comes into the left ventricle and pumps into the aorta. You can see a normal LV pressure which is around 120/8 to 12 millimeter of mercury. But in case of aortic stenosis, there is a stenosis across the aortic valve. Here what is going to happen is there is a compensatory hypertrophy of the left ventricle. Here you can see the left ventricle hypertrophy happens and the radius of the left ventricle comes down, but the LV pressure is going to be high. As the hypertrophy happens, the radius of the left ventricle is reduced and the LV pressure is high. Now how that compensatory hypertrophy helps to reduce the wall stress? For that you have to know what is Laplace law. Laplace law is nothing but the wall stress which is denoted by sigma is a product of pressure into radius divided by 2 times the wall thickness. Okay. So whenever there is an aortic stenosis, there is wall thickness which is increased, but the tension is inversely proportional to wall thickness and as well as your radius is reduced. So wall stress which is high is going to increase intraventricular pressure, but compensated by your radius which is decreased and the wall thickness which is increased. Okay, because this is inversely proportional and this is directly proportional. Your radius is going to come down, the wall thickness is going to increase. These two compensates for the increased pressure which happens with the stenosis. That is how Laplace law helps in compensatory aortic stenosis. But if the compensation fails and the ventricle dilates, the radius increase and thereby the wall stress also increase. You have to understand that.